All right, let's jump right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are going to unpack a truly fascinating story about productivity, human nature, and, well, that deeply relatable struggle we all face, actually crossing the finish line. We're going to break down some incredibly insightful source material today that completely reframes how we look at our own potential. But before we really get going, I want you to do a quick mental inventory for me. Seriously, take a second. How many unfinished projects are sitting in your room or just hanging out on your computer right now? Is it a half-read book on your nightstand? Maybe a new workout routine you started on a Monday and completely abandoned by Thursday? Or an entrepreneurial idea sitting in some messy, forgotten document? Look, we live in an era of endless beginnings, but today we're going to discover why starting is actually the easiest and perhaps the most dangerous part of any journey. So let's start with part one, the carpenter's hidden flaw. Our source material centers around this highly talented young carpenter living in a small village. And I mean, whenever this guy touched wood, people absolutely marveled at his skill. But if you walked into his workshop, you wouldn't see masterpieces. You'd see absolute chaos. It was like a graveyard of three-legged chairs, doorless cupboards, and half-made tables scattered everywhere. He had one massive, undeniable flaw. He could never, ever finish anything. Whenever someone asked him when a piece would be done, he'd just smile and say, just a little bit of work left. But, that little bit of work never actually happened. Why? Because the shiny excitement of every new idea always overshadowed whatever he was currently working on. He suffered from the ultimate shiny object syndrome. And this really perfectly illustrates the core conflict of his mindset. The young carpenter truly believed his identity was tied to the thrill of starting exciting new things. But his dad, who was an older master carpenter himself, saw it totally differently. He would visit the cluttered workshop and tell him, "Son, a person's identity is not known by how many tasks they have started. True identity is forged only by the things you actually complete." The young guy would nod, promise to finish his work, and then, boom, immediately get distracted by a new idea. So slowly but surely, his reputation in the village shifted from a talented artist to an unreliable worker.
Which brings us to part two, the cost of distraction.
An unreliable reputation eventually catches up with you, right? Well, the village chief ended up offering him a total golden ticket, a massive commission for a beautiful, intricately carved wooden trunk for his daughter's upcoming wedding. He started out with immense passion. Month one, incredible progress. Everyone who saw the trunk was just amazed, which, of course, only boosted his ego. But by month two, the shiny object syndrome hit hard. He got distracted by a quick new design idea. He thought to himself, I'll just do this quick little side project, and then I'll finish the trunk. Actually, scratch that. We all know that lie, right? One quick project became another. By month three, the wedding day arrives, and the trunk is still just a half-finished shell. The village chief was absolutely furious, left with no choice, and had to hire someone else. The source describes this as his rock bottom. Sitting there amidst a graveyard of half-finished creations, he broke down and asked himself a pretty devastating question. I start so well, but why can I never finish? It was the exact moment he realized that his immense talent was literally useless if he couldn't deliver a final, completed product. And that brings us to a major turning point in our story. Part 3. The Master's Simple Secret. Desperate for answers, the young carpenter sought out the village's old master. This elder was renowned for creating absolutely flawless, completed masterpieces every single time. The young man pleaded with him, explaining that he had all the ideas and the talent in the world, but just couldn't cross the finish line. The master didn't even give him a lecture. He just quietly picked up a block of wood, started carving, and simply said, "I see a spoon inside this wood." He explained that if he left the block half-carved, it would have absolutely zero value. It wouldn't be a useful piece of wood anymore, and it sure wouldn't be a spoon either. Its only value comes from being entirely completed. This right here, this is the master's profound psychological insight, and it's really the core thesis of our explainer today. Let's call it the danger of the middle. Just think about it. Beginnings are incredibly exciting. They're fueled by dopamine, adrenaline, novelty. Endings are happy and deeply satisfying. But the middle? Oh man, the middle is a grind. The middle is messy. It's exactly where the mind wanders, where new, shinier ideas pop up, and where the vast majority of people simply throw in the towel and give up. So now that we understand the psychology behind it, let's look at the solution in part 4, the 10-minute rule. The old master gave him this highly specific, low-friction playbook for building discipline. And honestly, it's something every single one of us can start using today. Step 1.
Go back to your chaotic workspace and pick the absolute smallest, easiest unfinished task. Step 2, work on it for just 10 minutes every single day. Make a hard promise to yourself. And step 3, once those 10 minutes are up, stop and do whatever your heart desires. Seriously. It sounds almost too simple, right? Like way too easy. But that is exactly why it works. By keeping the friction incredibly low, it completely bypasses that overwhelming, paralyzing anxiety of a massive project.
So the young carpenter decided to actually try it. He went home, bypassed all the massive tables and cupboards, and picked up a small, dusty, unfinished stool. The next day, he worked on it for exactly 10 minutes. The day after, another 10 minutes. During those 10 minutes, his brain was absolutely screaming at him to change the design or start something new. But he used the master's voice to fight off the distraction. He stayed totally focused, and eventually, just 10 minutes at a time, the stool was completely finished.
And that leads us perfectly into the final act of our analysis, part 5, motivation versus discipline. When the young man looked at that completely finished stool, he felt a completely different type of emotion. He realized that the deep, lasting joy of finishing far outweighed the cheap, fleeting thrill of starting. So he moved on to a second project, then a third. Within months, his workshop transformed from a graveyard of half-baked ideas into a beautiful showroom of finished furniture. And this reveals an ultimate psychological truth for us. We obsess over motivation. We wait around for it. But motivation only sparks the initial excitement. It is terrible fuel for the long haul. True heroes rely on discipline and consistency to drive through that messy middle and across the finish line. Talent and motivation, they're basically useless without them. I really want you to let this sink in. Unfinished books give no knowledge. Unfinished bridges don't connect destinations. And unfinished dreams, they change absolutely nothing in your life. Being 99% done is literally the exact same as being 0% done when it comes to the actual impact your work has on the world. So the grand takeaway, the ultimate rule for life we can pull from this story is simply this. Finish what you start before you start something new. The young carpenter learned that just 10 focused minutes a day of consistent discipline could entirely change the trajectory of his life, his reputation, and his self-worth. Which leaves us with one final, incredibly important question. Think back to that mental inventory we took at the very beginning of this explainer. Look at your own dusty, unfinished projects. What is the one task you are going to dedicate just 10 minutes to today? Don't try to finish the whole thing right now, just give it 10 minutes. Push through that messy middle. I highly encourage you to pick that one thing, set a timer today, and start building the identity of someone who finishes. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.